Hi, angels, and welcome. I'm your host, Lisa Everding, founder of Earthy Angels, and I'm on a mission to empower women to live authentically and to take exquisite care of themselves. You can find us on earthyangels.com or head over to our show notes to follow us on socials. Hi, angels. You know, I recently had a client say to me in a message, I love you, not in a romantic way, LOL. And this is a really beautiful place to be when you can feel this unconditional love for another woman. And there is power for you, for your sisters, when you can feel or express this pure love for other women. But I know it can feel weird at first, a little bit uncomfortable. So I want to unpack this a bit and help you to feel more comfortable in feeling this love and appreciation for women around you. So we can help shift the direction that society and social media has taken us towards comparison and competition, which is contributing towards women feeling inadequate, feeling this sense of lack or not feeling enough. So today's episode will help you shift from more of that ego-centered living to more of a heart, soul-centered based living. So let's jump into today's episode, girls. Hi, angels. I want to share something with you that has come up for me actually a fair bit recently. And when things keep coming up, I think to myself, I actually really need to share this with my community because I think that there's something really important in this message, or I think that this is a really powerful lesson to share, which is what my platform is for, which is what we do in our classes, in our community, and on the podcast. And what happened recently, not long after retreat, one of my beautiful retreat attendees sent me a message, and she said in her message, she said, I love you, ... not romantically, smiley face, love heart. And I wrote back and said, I know you do, not romantically, LOL. But I get it, but it's weird for women to say that to each other. But it was a funny moment between us, and it's a funny moment that I've had with a few women recently, saying the words, I love you to another woman, and not in a romantic way, but just in this way of just feeling in your heart and soul like you have so much pure, unconditional love for another woman. And girls, this is a really cool spot to be in. This is a very, very powerful energy to embody, and it's very hard to say out loud to somebody else, which is what I wanted to dive into a little bit today. So I have had many of these messages, or people actually say it to me face to face recently, and I'm not telling you this in an ego way, in a way of I'm awesome, or like this is really cool, I have women that love me. Like I'm not coming from that place of ego or arrogance at all, but I just want for you to understand the reasoning or the feeling behind it. Is I've had a lot of messages and a lot of conversations with women recently, and I have had them with people that I go to for mentorship or for spiritual support as well, where these messages or these women have been saying like, I love you, not in a romantic way, or I just can't, or people would say to me, it just feels really weird, but I just have so much love for you. And I've never felt that about another woman before. And I feel like a real weirdo for saying it. Like, this is not in a stalkerish way, but I just wanted to tell you how much love I have for you. And I completely understand where it's coming from. And the more and more I go on this spiritual journey, the more and more I'm receiving words like this coming from other women. And it's coming as I grow and evolve, and I come from a place of more love and more service and more giving and more compassion to other women, people feel that, and it's getting reflected back to me in these words or in these messages or in these feelings. And I had this conversation just not so long ago with my good friend Jodie Overton from Your Soul's Guide. And we were quite emotional having this discussion with one another after a women's circle. And we were just saying how, like, she goes, I just feel so much love for people. And I feel like it's this pure source energy kind of radiating out to me, that women are reflecting it back. And I said, that's exactly how I feel. And I get it. It's like when you come from more of a higher vibration of this pure love for people, people feel that and they reflect it back to you. And I look at it as a place of going, I'm so grateful that I'm comfortable enough to express this love for other women. And I'm so grateful that other women are starting to feel this, because all I'm doing is stripping back layers of ego, and all I'm doing is finding more depth and more connection to my soul and to my spirit, and living in more of a place of love and service and gratitude, that people are feeling that. And I feel like this kind of light comes through me, love comes through me, and I'm like this beacon that share it out to other people around me, and they feel that energy, and they gravitate towards that energy, and they reflect that energy back. So that is kind of where it's coming from. And I'm learning this on a deeper and deeper level. But go back to the beginning, this feels weird. Like, it feels weird to start to say to somebody else who's maybe not a family member, or maybe somebody who's not close to you, to say to you, to say out loud, I love you. Or maybe you just don't know how to express it, but you kind of might feel these feelings of love for another woman. Maybe you're not quite there yet, and that's okay. This is all a learning curve and an experience. And maybe you're starting to just feel this more of a connection, or being drawn to hanging around women that are embody more love, or embody more acceptance, or embody more light, or more kindness or compassion. You feel that you want to be around those women. You can't explain why, but it just makes you feel good. So we're all at different stages, and that's life. We're always going to be at all different stages, and we all learn and grow and evolve. But I know at the beginning it can feel weird to kind of say out loud, or it can feel uncomfortable for you to express your love and gratitude for another woman. But it's actually a really powerful place to be, and it's a really beautiful place to be, because when you say to somebody who maybe are not your family, or maybe are not close to you, but maybe you feel or express this love and gratitude for somebody else, they're a reflection of you. They're a reflection of how you're starting to feel. They're a reminder of what you see in somebody else, is a reminder of what you're starting to see in yourself. What you see in me or other women around you is a reflection of who you are at your core. So all we are is a reflection of ourselves. So when you start to feel that, it is a really beautiful place to be, because you're starting to feel that in yourself, but you see it in other women, if that makes sense. So it might feel weird at first. It might feel a little bit uncomfortable. It might feel awkward to say out loud, but then it starts to become more normal. You start to feel it more in your heart and soul, and you start to go, wow, it actually feels really good to tell another woman that I love you, or I'm grateful for you, or I feel so much gratitude and I feel so much love for you. And I often tell women that, and I often will say it in my messaging. I'm comfortable to say it here. I'm comfortable to say it in class. I'm comfortable to say it to other women. And that's because I'm starting to feel more comfortable in who I am to say that. I'm starting to see more people through the eyes of their soul, through the eyes of my soul. I'm starting to look at the world through the eyes of more of that soul-based living, the eyes of spirit. And it's a process. Like, it's a process of doing the inner work. It's a process of looking at yourself, of looking at other people through the eyes of love and compassion. And it used to feel weird and awkward and uncomfortable for me too. Just like many, many years ago, I used to feel weird and uncomfortable, like I was not a hugger. And if someone would I didn't know, would come and give me a hug, I'd kind of feel a bit weird. And then I become more of a huggy, kind of a touchy feel, not in a weird way, but you know what I mean? I become more of a hugger, that it just doesn't feel uncomfortable for me at all. And I'm finding more and more people around me are starting to hug a little bit more, or are starting to be a little bit more comfortable to say nice words to each other. But it can all feel weird and completely awkward. at first. So I completely understand if you're struggling with this concept a little bit, or if you're finding it a little bit hard to go, I actually couldn't say that to another woman. I get it because I have been there myself. Um, but it can become a really powerful place for you to live. And sometimes it's nice, not nice, but sometimes it's helpful to experience the contrast and to experience how the opposite makes you feel. Like, I'll give you an example. Just recently, I witnessed some unkind words spoken between other women, which really took me by surprise. And I really felt this sadness in my heart that that they had no maybe tolerance or compassion or kindness towards these other women. And then my reaction kind of turned to a bit of anger, it turned to a bit of, how could you do that? That's actually quite mean. And then I found myself sharing with my husband. He's my rock, and we talk all the time about everything. And then I started sharing with him and saying, like, I just find this really unfair. How can people blame or whinge about other people instead of looking at their own stuff? And then I thought to myself, after I told Tom, I walked away and I thought, hang on a sec, I'm stuck in this negative energy because I'm replaying the story. I'm now saying to somebody else how nasty or uncalled for that was. I'm now sitting in that energy of unkind words by sharing this story with my husband. I thought, hang on a sec, there's a lesson in this for me. Like, I'm stuck now in that energy of ego, or that energy of judgment. I'm judging them for being unkind. And I thought, hang on a sec, no, I'm not reflecting this. I'm not holding this. I need to shake this off. And shook it off. It's like a physical thing I do with my hands. If I'm carrying something, or if I'm, replaying something out in my head, I go, no, I don't want to sit in there. I physically like flick my hands, like shake, like I have my fist clenched, and then I kind of like shake it off and open up my fingers and give it a bit of a shake. Or I will use my sage, and then I went to my sage and I was kind of saging away. I'm not holding these unkind words, I'm getting rid of this negative energy. So I kind of got rid of it. And then I sat with it for a little bit, and I sent them love. I sent them kindness. I sent them, like messages of, may you find compassion in your heart. May I find more compassion in my heart for maybe judging, like that's not acceptable, but this is okay. That's life. Like, we're not perfect. We're human. We're here having a human experience. Our human ego-ness takes our humanness takes over sometimes. That I thought, I'm just grateful that I had the awareness, right? Like, I'm grateful that I had the awareness of, I was getting stuck in that energy a bit. I can shift it and I can pivot it. So I use those tools to shift it. I use those to, like with my sage, my shaking it off, by sending love and sending kindness and sending forgiveness, and asking myself for forgiveness. So what I'm saying, I guess, in that story is, we're not going to be perfect all the time. We are going to see unkindness, we're going to see judgment, we're going to see bitchiness, we're going to see that around us. Like, that's part of living in a human world, and that's part of having a human experience. But asking yourself the question, how do I want to live? What do I want to embody? What do I want to share with other women around me? And I know many women that have difficulty trusting other women. So you may be so far off the spectrum of coming from where I'm saying, like, send love to other women or have love for other women, because you might be sitting in a place of not trusting other women, which I completely understand too, because we do live in this world of competitiveness, of comparing ourselves, of coming from this place sometimes of maybe a bit of lack, or maybe a bit of, when you're kind of stuck in that competing, that competition, it's like we're competing for these resources, or we're competing for love, or we're competing for acceptance, or we're competing for acknowledgement, we're competing for people to want us, we're competing for resources, instead of coming from that place of, there's limitless resources, there's limitless love around us, there's enough to go around for everybody. And when you come from that place, you kind of feel like you don't need to compete with other women because you come from a place of wanting other people to succeed and other people to be happy. But at first, you may feel like you have this difficulty in trusting women because of what's happened to you in the past, maybe because of how you've been brought up, maybe because of what you've been exposed to. So that's okay. Like that's not a bad thing. Don't judge yourself for feeling that way. But a few things that you can start to do is don't indulge in if women around you are a bit negative or a little bit bitchy or a little bit unkind. Don't indulge in it, and you don't have to tolerate it. You can set boundaries around yourself. Like I find for me personally over the years, women don't come and complain to me too much and bitch to me about other women or aren't nasty to me about other women. The situation I was talking about before is kind of what I observe, but I don't tolerate and I don't indulge in those types of conversations. And I find that when you don't tolerate it, you don't want it, you don't attract it. So it kind of starts with having that little bit of awareness of what's going on around you. Are you noticing it? Are you indulging it? Can you put a stop to it? Can you put some boundaries up and say, actually, I'm not indulging this. I don't want to talk about other women like that. Change the topic of conversation, walk away, whatever you need to do to put some barriers in place. And sometimes it can be stepping away from people, stepping away from other women who don't make you feel good or don't make you feel like you're worthy. And maybe having some boundaries in place of removing yourself from situations, of cutting some ties with some people, or just spending less and less time with those people. Maybe it's the environments that you're in. It might not be physical people, it might be who you follow on social media, like who you listen to, who you are surrounded by. So maybe shifting your environment. Like I've had a few women say to me, many occasions have said to me, I feel so comfortable in this Earthy Angels community. The women here are beautiful and the women here really supportive, or they just make me feel comfortable, or they come and welcome me like when I was a new person. So put yourself in environments where you're surrounded by nice women, or women that embody the energy that you want to start to embody, or women that are supportive through things like women's circles or groups, or online, what you're exposed to online. Putting yourself in an environment, following inspiring women, following women who lift you up, following women who teach you something, following women who embody this energy that you want to start to embody, can start to help you to trust other women. And it can be a little bit of a trial and error. It can be a little bit of putting yourself out there, which can be hard, and trying some new things. I understand that. But it can also be coming from starting to be the woman that you want to see in others. Maybe don't necessarily wait for other women to come into your life. Start to be the woman that you want to see around you. Start to be the woman that you want to see in your group of people. Your vibe attracts your tribe. So starting to raise your vibration, starting to raise your energy of speaking kinds of words, of having more gratitude for women, having more gratitude for yourself, taking better care of yourself, taking care of other women around you, giving more compliments, giving more of what you want to receive, but not in a way of, I'm just doing this because I want to receive it, but doing it in a way of, I just want to give. I want to be kind. I want to be compassionate. I want to come from more of a place of service. I want to be more of a beautiful woman. So start with yourself first. That's the one thing that we have control over, is our boundaries, and is our reaction, is how we show up in the world, how we give, how we talk, our actions. We're responsible for ourselves by opening ourselves up to do the inner work, is one thing that we can have control over. And especially putting yourself like in the energy of where you're going to learn from other women, through women's circles, through like the yoga studios, through beautiful environments that are going to lift you up, is a powerful way to start to connect with more like-minded women. And can you open your heart to receive a little bit more? One thing I've learned over the years, and I've been reading a book at the moment, The Untethered Soul, and by Michael Singer, and he talks a lot about don't block your energy. And the way that you open your heart up a little bit more is by simply the opposite, is by not blocking it. So allowing yourself to open a little bit so you feel this energy of love pour through, you feel this energy of just this life force energy flow through your heart can just simply come from choosing or making a decision that I'm not going to block it anymore. I'm not going to have these walls up. I'm not going to have this barrier of protection around me. I'm just going to open myself up to receive a little bit more. And that can be a way where you can start to invite in more love and more acceptance and more self-acceptance by just allowing a little bit more of that energy to flow through your heart and starting to accept people for the way they are, accept other women for the way they are. Because when you give a lot of this energy out to other women, it actually helps bring that energy of self-love and self-acceptance and self-worth into yourself. The more you can love on your sisters more fiercely, the more that you can start to love on yourself, because everything is a reflection. I have to share with you this card I pulled this morning. I was thinking about this podcast, and I've got this beautiful deck called the Divine Feminine Oracle book. And I pulled this card this morning, Sappho, the poetress. And on the front of her card, she says, I love every inch of my body and I love the women in my life fiercely. And I thought, how fitting, like, is this card about this, because of this episode that I'm about to dive into. And this female deity, let me get to this part I wanted to talk about. She embodies the deep love, admiration, and sensuality that exists between women. She says, there's a few parts. So, here we go. In ancient Greece, okay, so she says that in ancient Greece, a woman's love for another woman was considered natural, and Sappho's love for the female form became legendary. It is believed that she read her writing before groups of women, educating and elevating them as she performed her poetry about the goddess-like nature that all women possess. When your soul selects her card, it says, instead of exhausting ourselves with the unholy effort of comparing our bodies to others or of competing for resources that are actually unlimited, Sappho urges us to do the most revolutionary thing we could ever do: love ourselves and our sisters fiercely. And I thought, wow, what a beautiful card. This is so divinely timed. And she says in this card, lift up a woman in your life. Help her reach a dream she's been incubating. Take time to indulge with lady loves in your life. Go to a spa, make dinner together, go skinny dipping, or just do something outrageous that celebrates the fact that you have this love for each other. She is about the power of loving every inch of the female form. Spend a day flooding your thoughts with positive affirmations about your body or a woman's body. Take a long bath with red rose petals. Do something nourishing that acknowledges your love for the fact that you are a woman, or for the radiant women who constellate your life. Is there a woman in my life that I can send love to and uplift in this moment? And I thought, wow, what a beautiful, beautiful card. That is so fitting with this podcast episode that I wanted to talk about today, and how powerful it is to start lifting up other women, to start complimenting other women, to love on every inch of our own female form and seeing the beauty within other women, looking at other women through the eyes of love, admiring in other women their raw, innate, inner, natural beauty, and starting to see more women through the eyes of love. So maybe asking yourself, is there a woman in my life that I can send love to? Is there a woman in my life that I can uplift in this very moment? And girls, when we start to embody these things and we start to see these things in other women, we teach the other women around us to do the same. We teach our daughters to be more loving and more kind and more compassionate towards other women. So I want to ask you, have you felt so much love and gratitude in your heart for another woman, but you've actually found it hard to express it? Maybe if you felt that, That's your soul talking to you right then and there. That's your soul in union with this divine source energy. That's your soul connecting from your heart. You're coming from this place of living in your heart, because we are all energy. We're all an expression of love. And start to look at the world through the eyes of love, through the eyes of God. And you may hear me talk about this, like bang on about this a lot in my podcast, because it's something that I heard from Abraham Hicks many, many years ago at the start of my spiritual journey. She said, look at the world, through the eyes of love, the eyes of God, the eyes of source. And it took me a bit of time to get my head around that. And so God, love, source, divine, universe, however you want to interpret it, it's up to you how you interpret it, is just this pure radiating source of love energy that flows through us. And when you look to others through the eyes of love, you start to see yourself more through the eyes of love. You start to see, when you look at the world through the eyes of more beauty and seeing more beauty in other women, you start to see more of this beauty and love in your own self, which is powerful, girls. It is so, so powerful when we get out of our minds and get out of our ego way. Our ego wants to keep us safe. Our ego wants to protect us. Our ego wants us to believe that, like we're out for ourselves, that we have to compete, that we have to strive for this perfection, that we have to constantly take care of ourselves first, and just come from this place of looking at our own self. When we flip that and get out of more of the mind and the ego and get more into the way of living in our heart space, where we see the world through the eyes of love, we see more of ourselves through the eyes of love, that we grow in more confidence and more self-worth and more self-acceptance, because little by little you just start to love on yourself a little bit more. It's powerful, it's freeing, it's healing, it's abundant, it's magnetic. So try not to block it. Allow this energy to flow through yourself freely. Allow yourself to open up and receive, to break down your walls, to shift your perspective and open yourself up to welcome in and receive more of your heart's desires, receive more of this energy of love. And it all comes from back to this line, which I wrote down, which I write in my affirmations over and over again: love is divine and I am nothing except love. So this has been a little bit deep today. This has been a little bit, I guess maybe for some of you a little bit uncomfortable, and maybe for some of you a little bit new, and maybe for some of you a little bit raw and a little bit confronting. And that's okay. Maybe you need to listen to this episode back again, maybe down the track, maybe straight away, to just ask yourself, how can I be more open to giving love? How can I be more open to receiving love? How can I be more open to saying the words, whether you write it, you don't have to say it out loud, that I love you to another woman. It could be, maybe you could write down a list starting right now of women in your life and they may be women that you know personally, they may be family members, they may be friends, they may be somebody that you follow, maybe somebody that you admire, that you have this love for, that you have this gratitude for. Maybe writing down a list in these women of, what do you see in them? What do you admire in them? What are you grateful for about them? Because you know what? That's what you see in yourself, girls. Like, these women around you are a reflection of you. This messaging around you can be a reflection of what is already in you. Maybe it's already in you and you just don't see it yet. Maybe it's already in you and you're just starting to open your eyes up to accepting it in yourself. Maybe by you writing it down today is just a little reminder of, hang on, what I see in these other women is in me. What I see in these other women, I embody this. Maybe I'm really grateful that I see it in these other women, and I'm going to start to be grateful for that in myself. So girls, if I can leave you with anything today, it's that we want to lift each other up. We want to really see this pure raw love and beauty in other women. So maybe today, maybe sending a little message of love for somebody amazing in your life. It doesn't have to be anything deep and long and meaningful. It could just be as simple as I love you. It could be as simple as I'm grateful for you, as simple as like I'm just so happy to have you in my life and thank you for doing this for me. Thank you for being this woman for me. Whatever it is for you, just start to send these little words of love and gratitude for someone, for another woman in your life. And you will start to notice this will get reflected back to you in time. So I hope I've left you with something really powerful today. I hope I maybe has shifted your perspective a little bit today. But just remembering, girls, that we are all love. Love is divine, and I am nothing except love. Have a beautiful day, angels. And I just want to send you so much love. I want to tell you how much I love you and how much I'm grateful for you and how much I appreciate you. And I'm just so grateful to be surrounded by so many beautiful, inspiring women in my life, in my community. And I just want to send you so much love and abundance. Have a beautiful day, angels. Bye. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode and want more, feel free to follow or subscribe on whatever platform you listen to. You can also head over to earthyangels.com or join our private Facebook group, Earthy Angels Connect, for more community, blogs, updates, inspo, motivation, support, and to connect with a tribe of like-minded souls. And if you have a moment, we would be super grateful if you would love to leave a review. Sending you so much light and love, Angel.